Okay, welcome everybody. This is Justin Lee with reimarketingtips.com and bestforeclosuresystem.com. And I'm really excited because today, you guys have been reading my blog this summer and keeping up on my adventures here in Panama and doing deals back in the U.S., specifically in San Diego. You guys can see that I've had some challenges with Notary and just working remotely. Nothing that we were unable to overcome, of course, because that's what running a business is all about. It's having challenges put in front of you and having to overcome them. But I'm really excited because I've found some new tools just here in the last month that have made the world of difference in my business. And I'm actually really passionate about this, so much so that you guys know I've been blogging about this a lot, but I also reached out to the CEO of this company and told him and some of his staff members there a little bit about what I was doing, and said, hey, I'd love to get you on for an interview because I know that what's happening with me right now in my business and some of the things that have happened in the past and some of the things that they're doing, it's just absolutely a match made in heaven for everybody in the real estate world. So without further ado, what I would like to do is, hopefully you guys can see now on my screen where it says signnow.com. The CEO of signnow.com, Mr. Chris Hawkins. Chris, you there?
I am.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're a very busy person, but you know, I know that you guys have some awesome stuff to talk about with your business. Now, I've read your story on your blog, and I think you called it your 3-year journey with respect to online notarization. But for anybody who hasn't read that blog post or who doesn't know you, maybe you can give us a quick 5-minute background about yourself and signnow.com and the on the online notary journey and how that's been for you.
Sure. Well, in my prior life, I went to West Point, rolled around on tanks for a few years, was a tank platoon leader, activities like that. When I got into the real world, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. I ended up starting a small consulting practice where we helped companies set up their document management platforms. We built that out to about 10 people, and we were working a lot within the life insurance space, and when we noticed a lot of our customers getting hit with notary fraud. So for us, and me and my co-founder, that was a really interesting problem that we really sought to go solve, that the problem with traditional paper notarizations being fraudulently done in a variety of ways, most of which involve either people trying to cut corners just to get things done, or people being incentivized through commissions and other things to do the wrong behavior. So we had this vision that we could bring it online and really solve that problem by leveraging multi-factor identification, video recording, things like that. So we sought to do that. We ended up, I did a lot of the coding myself. We ended up creating a pilot program that we ran in 2011 that was enormously successful. The state of Virginia, which was looking to solve a lot of the robo-signing problems, which were similar to the stuff we saw, though it wasn't in real estate, ended up, we communicated back and forth with their task force that was putting some bills into place to try to resolve similar problems that we had seen. They ended up passing a bill into law in early 2011, and that law went into effect this year, July 2012, which made online notarization remote from the other parties, legal for Virginia notaries to do to customers anywhere. And Virginia is trying to be a little bit like Virginia to notarization what Delaware is to corporations. And just like there's corporations all over the country/world that work under the laws of Delaware, it's a very similar construct to notarizations with Virginia.
Awesome. You know, it's sort of funny. It's a small world. My wife is from Virginia. All her family still lives there and actually lived in Arlington, Virginia for 10 years, and it's where I founded my real estate investing company, which is actually still a Virginia LLC. So you mentioned a ton of interesting things in that little bit there, and I want to jump into a bunch of the stuff, the fraud stuff, and also Virginia being the state that leads it. But before we do that, why don't you just explain to everybody the difference between what Sign Now does and then sort of like what the notary aspect of the business does? Because they're two different services, correct? Obviously.
They are and they aren't. So basically our fundamental premise, so when we came off and we helped get a lot of these bills passed, essentially we thought, how are we going to build a company? And what do we think of, when we look at our vision of the world, what do we see it as? And we see it as a world of agreements, or at least a market of agreements that starts end to end from creating a contract to through signing it, identifying people, trusting them, ending up in a court of law, and ultimately maybe at collections. Obviously not everybody touches every step along that path, but the end-to-end cycle looks something like that. So what we thought was interesting about signing is just this great thing that everybody has to do in the process. Very few people want to pay for it, so it felt like a great product to give away for free, and particularly is a great experience on mobile. So we built this core signing platform that were pretty unique, and we pioneered, were the first ones to really give it away completely for free. The ability to sign documents or invite other people to sign. And then we make our money through these sort of vertical use cases of the signing, things like notarization, and we have things rolling out in the future, not taking away any of the free product, but as we add more on top of it, that will sort of be charged.
Got it. So just for all the people listening, and as I mentioned, our community is real estate focused. So everybody in our community is either a real estate investor or they're a real estate agent. We've got title company people. I got an email from a woman who's a notary in Ohio today. So those are the type of people. So are you telling me then that outside of the notarization, which was what I've been using you guys for since I just discovered your company a month ago, I can actually use your service to electronically sign my contracts, or like if I'm going back and forth with somebody, I don't have to print it out. I can just sign right through my through signnow.com, through your site?
Yep, and we're done every day. Thousands of documents a day are signed. Just last month, we had Darren Williams sign his $98 million MBA contract using our iPad app. So it's used for contracts big and small. We have people ranging from real estate bankers, obviously NBA athletes, wedding photographers. It's a wide range of people that use the product.
Awesome. So for everybody who's listening today, guys, in the real estate world, you guys know, especially for those of you who are doing a lot of work with REOs now, I think that I'm sure you guys are familiar, Chris, with one of your competitors, DocuSign.
Sure.
Sure, and they seem to have a decent entrenchment in the real estate space. I know a lot of realtors send me offers on DocuSign. The problem with DocuSign, and I just experienced this over the weekend, and your iPad app actually solved the problem for me, and this is so cool, guys. So a lot of the agent came back to me and they said, you can't DocuSign this. You have to have what they call wet signatures, meaning they want us to print this out and actually use our own pen. We can't DocuSign it. So for me, I'm here in Panama. I don't have a printer. I can get to a printer, but then I don't have a scanner. So the printer and the scanner are in two different locations. I have to actually get on a water taxi if I wanted to scan something. It's fine, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. Just being able to use your iPad app, I can actually take my finger, drag, draw my signature, and it got around that. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's been a huge help for me in my business. Now, outside of real estate, Chris, I know you mentioned you had a background in the life insurance, and that's where you discovered the fraud. Have you guys identified who your top verticals are? Is real estate number one? Like, who's your best target audience or your best customer?
Well, it's still pretty early in this market. Real estate, in terms of the amount of notarization business, is one of the top ones. But we certainly see a lot of room to grow the market. Now that notarization is finally easy, it's actually remarkably useful to ensure that people are who they say they are, and if you end up in a court of law, it sort of acts as a form of enforcement insurance, if you will. So you don't ever... So we think the applications that are pretty broad-based. Real estate is definitely going to be a big sector for us. But but we expect it to, it's going to take some time, and we got to be patient as a company and get. There's certainly a lot of regulation there, and people that have a lot of legacy systems, and there's a lot of things that we will have to be patient with and work our way in.
Right. So let's go back to the Virginia thing for a sec, because I got an email from a woman this morning who said online notarization in Ohio is illegal. And I think you guys were the first to come out and say, well, hey, look, Virginia's at the forefront. They're the only places where this is legal. What I'd like to remind all the people listening to this interview and all of our subscribers is that you can get a document notarized in any of the 50 states, and it's valid in any of the other 50. For example, I just bought a apartment building in Phoenix, but I notarized all the documents out of San Diego, and obviously Maricopa County and Phoenix has no problem with the San Diego notary. So can you maybe just talk a little bit about the Virginia aspect of this, and how, even though people are saying, oh, online notarization is illegal in Ohio, how the Virginia thing makes it completely legal in all 50 states, so to speak?
Sure. So broadly, first, that she would be correct if she said that Ohio notaries are not permitted to do this online. And that's correct for many states, California being another one. We've talked to many of the Secretary of State's offices, and their really only concern is they don't want to see California notaries thinking that they can jump on Skype and do this online. That is not the case today. Now, every state, so Virginia notaries are very explicitly allowed to do it. There are a series of technical requirements that you have to fulfill. So again, just jumping on Skype wouldn't really satisfy the case. We had to do a lot more engineering to comply with the law. So basically, our system allows Virginia notaries to legally notarize to anyone anywhere. Now, what you get at the end of the process is a Virginia notarization, and you're able to, in all states, have explicitly said that they accept other states' notarizations. All states have legally on the books the ability to accept electronic notarizations too. Now, that said, there's sort of a practical processing person on the ground issue, which is still in the early days of overcoming. So only really 800 of the 4,000 counties at this point have a system in place to manage electronically submitted documents.
Right.
Now, many of the remaining counties will accept a printed out copy. They know it's legal. They just don't have, the process is I put the thing in the manila folder, and the manila folder moves from here to here. So there's no way physically for them to manage a PDF that were to be sent to them. But that's changing pretty fast, and so we're riding sort of a trend here. On the earlier part of the trend, although it's still 800 to 4,000 is up significantly from even a few years ago.
So when you say, Chris, when you say 800 to 4,000, you're saying that 800 of the 4,000 counties across the United States have the ability to accept the document electronically. Let's say for those other 3,200, are they required to accept a printout of that document?
So this varies state by state. So essentially, they're required to accept it, but not all of them have figured it out yet. So what we have, and what we've done with several counties, and there's really no way to do it besides going county to county on this, is we have a series of legal opinions from other counties, including state counties in California, that state that they'll accept out-of-state and electronic notarization. So if there's a county that really hasn't seen this before, or no one's really pushed them on it to finally sort of get in line, what we can do, and we have been doing, certainly it's going to take some time to get the rest of the 3,200 or so on board, but it really requires someone to push it. Otherwise, there's really no incentive for anybody at that office to figure it out.
Yeah.
Legally, you're supposed to accept it. That stems from both UETA and e-sign. UETA is the uniform law that was passed really enacted mostly in 1999 and the early 2000s by the states for the states.
Well, I think it's absolutely brilliant what you're doing, and it's funny that you bring up the fraud aspect of it. I'll tell you a quick story, and first, the readers of my blog, you might know this story. Almost exactly 2 years ago, I bought a house. I was introduced to a gentleman who was sort of like a real estate wholesaler, matchmaker. He introduced me to a gentleman who was selling a house in Oceanside, California, right at the northern end of San Diego County. Went up, looked at the property, and it was a great deal. I was going to buy it for $280,000. I had to put about 10 or 15 grand of work into it, and I was going to resell it for $360,000. So it was a nice deal. Did the closing, bought the house, spent just over 11 grand fixing it up, repainting it, new carpet, got the pool done. And the day we went to list it, my realtor forwarded me a list pendants, and it was a filing done by Bank of America claiming that they were the rightful owners of this property. And the long story short, guys, is that the guy who sold me the house had actually filled out a fraudulent deed from Bank of America to himself, had recorded it, found me, sold me the house, took the cash, and had bolted. And so let's just say had there have been some sort of online notary thing, there would have been webcam evidence of him doing this fraudulently, and it would have been a lot easier for the case, for the police to put the case to rest, so to speak. Am I correct?
It is, and it won't necessarily prevent fraud in every case, but really all that a fraudster would get out of using our system would be a video of them committing fraud and having to jump through a bunch of identification hoops, and having that all recorded electronically. So yep. It would be very trivial to see that he had done such a thing.
Exactly. So, I just find it ironic because the title company, I mean, obviously we had title insurance on the property. The title company was on the hook, and they had to pay out. So ultimately, they were the ones who lost that big chunk of money, not me. Although it was a year-long time suck and an enormous amount of stress for me on something where you can imagine you think you don't really own a house that you've bought. Awesome, guys. Well, listen, is there any, we didn't really, I talked briefly about the iPad app. Is there anything you want to add about your mobile services, whether it's on an iPad, iPhone, Android?
We're a very mobile-centric company. About 80% of our users are using us on mobile devices and overwhelmingly on iPhone and iPad, and that's where we really shine as a product. So yeah, we continue to push out updates. It's great today. It's going to be better tomorrow, and it's all free today. We're going to start to roll out some paid products on the iPad, including iPad notarizations here in the near future, and we have a team of engineers working on it right now.
Awesome. So I haven't actually, like I said, I just downloaded the iPad one, and I'm not doing any mobile stuff right now because I'm in Panama, but I'll be back in North America at the end of this month. Does that mean that can I use the online notary service right from my phone?
Today you can't, but we're working on it. Okay. So the first thing we're planning on introducing is the iPad because of the bigger form factor and screen size. So we'll end up probably taking down each of the different devices one at a time, and starting with iOS, mostly because Android is difficult to develop for because of all the different device sizes and such. So for something like our application where we're dealing with document sizes and various video types and sizes, things like that, it can get quite complex quite fast. Although we are excited about Android and would love to get there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, everybody, I hope that you guys all got a benefit out of this. Chris, it was fascinating actually talking to you. I just want to say for me personally, this has made a huge difference in my business. I think I was talking with one of your support teams, and the time that I did have to go to Panama City to get the document notarized, between the flight, the hotel, the cab rides, and everything, I spent over $300 doing it, as opposed to just sitting here on my little island here in Panama being able to get it notarized. So it's an awesome service. You guys are kicking some serious butt. Guys, check out signnow.com right now. A ton of their services are still free, like Chris mentioned. I would highly encourage you guys to get signed up and give it a whirl. Test it out. It is absolutely phenomenal, especially for those of you who need notary services, the wet signature thing that we talked about earlier. It's a tremendous, tremendous service. So, Chris, I just want to thank you for joining me. Thanks very much for doing this. I know you're a busy guy. Any final words you'd like to add to any of our listeners out there?
No, thank you, and I'm sort of jealous. I wish I could go visit you on your island right now.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for doing this, guys. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.